And today I want to talk about why process is the most important element of creating results. Okay, the Intrapreneur Framework is very simple. In fact, it's so simple and so ubiquitous that you can use it in I promise you, any client that you're working with. If you're an entrepreneur, it works in your business. Think it doesn't? Sorry, but you're wrong. Problem is the first step. Establish priority, understand and seek out the procedure, process, which we'll talk about today, product, partnership. The process in and of itself, once it's built, creates a result. It is the bridge from one side of the river to the other side. It's always going to create a result. Now, is it going to create the result that you want it to create? We don't know. That's why we first focus on the problem. Then we make sure that we're working on the right thing with our business owner, with our client, with our entrepreneur, with our founder. Hey, is this the right thing? Are these the priorities that you have? And then we start to map those priorities and understand, how did these problems that we saw in that first step, how did they come to pass? And we start to understand what the team was doing, where the breakage point was, right? Where's the bottleneck in this procedure? And once we fix that, now we have a process. Now, process is awesome. And here's why. Process creates results, but it also establishes growth. Okay? It also establishes growth. Because once you establish a process, now you can start to automate and accelerate that process. And the more of those that you do, the faster that the revenue engine, the customer support engine, the accounts receivables engine happen, the marketing engine. There's a process for everything. In everything, there is a process. So don't be afraid of process. Don't think it's like some super technical thing. Okay. When I came live today, I had to go through a process. If I went through the wrong process, guess what? I wouldn't be live. I wouldn't be live here in the Facebook group inside of Intrapreneur Academy. But first I had to open my studio app that's called Riverside. Then I had to open Facebook, go into the Facebook group, set up the live stream, title it, push live in Riverside, then go live inside of Facebook. 6 steps-ish in that process. If something went wrong, if it didn't work, I'd have to only look at those 6 steps. What did I do wrong in those 6 steps? Solving business problems isn't any different. Okay? Let me give you an example. I was talking to a potential client this week, and this particular potential client bought a big old system, right, from a big software provider. And if I said the name, you know them. So it's a big software provider. They bought this big system. They wanted to consolidate all of their information into one system. And they invested something like $20,000, $30,000 late last year on this. And I get a call and they're like, it's still not done. It's still not fixed. Right? Now, I don't have any history on what they did, but what I know is I have to understand first the problem, then the priority, and then understand what procedure had they gone through. So I started to identify the procedure they went through. Well, they tried to implement and they hit a bunch of different roadblocks, a bunch of different blockages, a bunch of different kinks, if you will, in the hose. So we identify what those kinks are while simultaneously understanding the end result. They want a system that's going to bring in all their supplier data. They want to make sure all their inventory is in there, all their CRM, all their point of sale information. The lifeblood of their business is their data. It's their customer data. They want it all in one place. Beautiful, but it's not there. So we start to work backwards. We work forwards from where they started and backwards from their end goal. And all of a sudden what we see is a broken process. Steps that are no longer functional or never were functional. Things like data migration never got done. Right now, these words, sometimes they can seem really big and scary, but they're really not, right? Like if you put your name, address, phone number, and email address, right, on a piece of paper. Now let's imagine we jumbled them all up. And instead of your name, it was your email address. And instead of the second line of your address, right? Your city, state, zip code, it was your last name, then your first name at the street. You start to get the idea, right? We can mix data. If data is not clean, it means nothing. And if it means nothing, it does nothing. This is process related elements, things that are not very difficult to understand, but sometimes they can be challenging to implement if you don't know that they need to find and align in a certain way, a certain procedure. So we identify the steps that the vendor wanted to take to implement. The implementation didn't go well. It's not complete. So now all of a sudden we're somewhere in the process. We get to troubleshoot from that place. And what we found was that the data migration never happened. Now, why didn't the data migration happen? Well, let's take a step back. What happens before we can put a bunch of good information in it, right? Well, it needs to be clean. That name, address, phone number, email address, right? That needs to be structured. So first we need to have data, then we need to structure the data. Once the data is structured and verified to be clean, then we can migrate it from one place to the other. Now we can put it onto the envelope so that the U.S. Postal Service will deliver your letter because the name, address, and phone number are accurate. Maybe not phone number, but you get my point, right? So process matters. Now, am I a data migration expert? No, but I'm an expert at problem solving. And many of you here inside of Intrapreneur Academy are an expert in problem solving also. Here's the challenge that you have. You ready? You don't give yourself enough credit. You don't give yourself enough credit to take enough risks to solve enough problems to see the impact and the influence. I've said it once, and I'm going to say it 1,000 more times in the next 6 to 12 months. Intrapreneurs are the number one role that business owners are going to be hiring for in the next 3 to 5 years. Guaranteed. It's no longer okay just to be a sit on the sidelines. I only color with the red, blue, and yellow crayons, and I'm not willing to go outside the lines. Doesn't work. Why not? Well, things like the advancement of artificial intelligence, the entire bottom portion, least skilled responsibilities and skills of an organization are going to fall away. And it's going to force you and it's going to force me to level up and elevate our skill set. You might say to yourself, well, so how is AI going to make people want to solve more problems with intrapreneurs rather than employees? Because employees, that mindset is not a problem-solving mindset. It's a cog in the wheel mindset. It's a serial mindset of I do this and I do this and I do this every single day. The same 3 things or the same 2 things or the same thing. But for us, we've got this passion. We care about the outcome.